Hi, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Sal's House. Boy, I got a really special treat for you. Look, I got to be super honest with you. I'm recording this episode literally like less than 12 hours after the Super Bowl ended. And it's because I need to turn the page from football to baseball and off-season football as quickly as possible because obviously the Chiefs won again. And that's not cool for us here in Buffalo. And we don't love seeing that. Or I don't want to talk about that. I'm going to have to talk about it on the radio. I get that. I just want to turn the page. And then I thought, we got next week, right around what? Valentine's Day, 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there. This week, I'm sorry. Pitchers and catchers are reporting for spring training in Arizona and Florida, wherever they're going to be. And it's going to be baseball season soon. You know, I'm a big Yankees fan, but this isn't going to be about the Yankees. This is going to be a very special guest that is going to be one of the more interesting talents you've ever seen, you've ever heard of. Before I get to my guest, tell you all about him, I want to thank my sponsor, as always, Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. So many things going on there. You know, they're going to have a watch party coming up for the NCAA tournament. I'll probably stop in, maybe get behind the bar, pour a few drinks. We'll have some wings together. 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. Sports City Pizza Pub. Great pizza, great wings, great beer, everything on tap. So make sure you stop in there. All right. This guy I'm going to welcome in, believe it or not, I've actually known for, I guess, we're old now. So like 25 years in college. And then all of a sudden, one day, I didn't really talk to him for years. You know, we just kind of went our own way. That's what people do. One day, I'm like, wait a minute, I see this guy on social media. Did I go to Syracuse with that guy? He was on Letterman. He's been on a lot of other different kind of shows and different things. It's an incredible, incredible talent he has. His name is Gar Ryness. He's known as the batting stance guy. Gar, welcome into Sal's house, buddy. I appreciate having you on, man.
25 years ago, how young do you think we are? We were so out of school 25 years ago. I was married. Right. Come on.
Yes, that's right. That's right. You have older kids, right? How old are you? You have kids.
Yeah,
How old are they now?
My youngest just turned 18 yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, so 23 and 18. Yeah. When you say it's been 25 years, like, listen, but hey, hair don't lie. Your listeners know it and reality knows it. No, it was more than 25 years ago.
Yes, about 30 something, 31, 32, 33, because
there we go.
We showed up at the same time at Syracuse in 91, right?
Yep.
Okay, now we have to tell everybody the story.
Well,
we used to battle each other.
There's no way you're going to be able to oversell this story. So, okay, listeners, hold on. Hey, Sal, earmuffs. So I just want you to know that, like, if I was good athletically at anything, it was intramurals. It wasn't actual like varsity baseball in high school or football or anything like that. And we are on the line right now, that guy with the mic, with my own personal nemesis in sports. It was like what the Bills feel about the Chiefs, all right, is like Sal had this equally awkwardly low to the ground and fast and darty, I think it was an RA, Andrew Schaefer. So you guys both collectively, like again, Bills fans, sorry, but every home run throwback that was possible for the Titans was in triplicate. These two knuckleheads, it wasn't until my senior year in softball that I finally passed by. It's just that simple. Or what was it? Sadler 7? What was the actual dorm?
We were Sadler 7. We were in Sadler Hall. Yeah, and then I think you're right. Something about simple. We went on and did our own thing after like 3 years in the dorm, right?
Yeah. And then my last year, our team name was Joe Mama. And our last year,
I love it.
Right before we graduated, we won the softball university championship, beating a frat. You remember how the dorms and the independents and the frats would all play each other, and it was impossible to beat the frat. And we beat the frat to win it all.
Amazing. I love it. What'd you do with the T-shirt? What'd you do? I would collect intramural championship T-shirts at Syracuse.
Wore it forever. Wore it until my wife was like, "Hey, I can see your boobs," you know, because it was like holes. And I was like, "All right, goodbye."
I love it, man. I love it. That's cool. Your kids into sports? They play?
No, but I do have. I guess high school. One is all like musical theater, so she goes to a performing arts high school. So there's no even sports, but she played really far in like softball, and that was such a blast. To do that, but I've actually got my oldest is only 5 stadiums short from seeing a major league game in every major league stadium.
That's amazing.
Yeah, wow, but it was mostly for like lemon ices and no rules and staying up late. So she's like, cool.
and you're out in LA now, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's funny to me is, so when you go to Syracuse as a young, guy or gal like me and, many of our friends,
Yeah.
a lot of us go into broadcasting. You want to go there. You want to go to Newhouse. You want to be a broadcaster.
Yep.
I don't think that's your path though, right? You weren't there for Newhouse, were you?
Well, I was. I
Okay.
that's what so in growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, which by the way, my dad is a season ticket holder for the 49ers. So I'm equally as interested in moving along to baseball as you are right
Oh,
now.
wow. So
Yeah.
you're a big
So
49ers. I didn't realize. Are you a 49ers fan yourself,
yeah,
obviously?
so we went to the NFC Championship game against the Lions. That
Wow.
was crazy. So that was a bummer. So all that to say is in the late 80s, it was like the San Francisco Giants had one of the announcers, the Warriors had one of the announcers, the A's and the Niners, all that someone had gone to Syracuse. So it was on the map early on in the Bay Area where just happened to be a bunch of those guys all went to Syracuse. So I don't know. I was like, I don't know if they teach sports, but at the very least, they may hand out internships. So
Right.
that's how I ended up there. But then, yeah, didn't end up going into broadcasting like that. Like you,
No.
I had a different
Yeah.
life first and then kept going with that life. Whereas you like transitioned into, weren't you
I did.
teaching forever?
I was teaching. Yeah, I started in radio at a small town in Florida called Englewood, Florida. And literally, Gar, we did this town and radio station was so small. My first play-by-play experience was little league baseball, like 11 and 12-year-olds, and we sold the living crap out of it because moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas and anybody who had a business bought airtime on these games. They wanted to hear their kids on the radio, and we would go to the local little league and do live broadcasts of little league baseball games. That was my first foray, and then I started doing play-by-play for the high school teams and the football games, and then I was in this town where like a lot of older people, and it's down in Florida. So to pass time, I said, I mean, I need something else to kind of do, and I'm an athlete, and I want to be around sports. I started coaching. That's how I got my start into teaching. Because I started coaching. I loved it so much. I became a teacher for 10 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
then moved back to Buffalo here, to, as live my dream. That's what I'm doing. I'm literally the guy who's living his dream and doing
Crazy.
what I've wanted to do since I was a little kid. Did you want to mimic batting stances since you were a little kid?
No, so you're again gonna factor into the story. And so I'm probably like my parents didn't have Atari, so we were like had to be out in front playing stickball, or
Right.
like it didn't snow in Northern California, like where you're from. So I was just like goofing around, and we would like lay out baseball cards, or like I would pretend to be, all right, I'll be the Mets, and all right, I'm gonna be Lenny Dykstra, or and so the guys I was playing with, again, God bless California, but there's just other things to do in California. So you might, your neighbor may not be into sports, but into skateboarding, but like not at all into baseball. So it was even my high school baseball team until I like if someone was like, hey, do Ricky Henderson, no one would have really known, oh, that's Ricky Henderson. So it wasn't until it's like snowing, we're in the dorms at Syracuse, we're playing like some tape ball, wiffle ball in the study lounge or whatever. And then someone's like, all right, I'm going to be Wally Backman. And then I would do it. And some of the people in the dorms who now are like nerdy sports fans, because God bless the East Coast, but it's better at nerdy sports fan than like West Coast. And so none of those guys know how to rollerblade, but they know that looks like Wally Backman. So they would sit there like, holy, like that really looks like, wow, Gary Carter, he really did that. Wait, how do you, and you're making his facial expression. And so people were like way into it in a way that, so I swear, I was like, wait, I can do what? Like, I didn't even know it was something that, like, obviously there was no YouTube. There was no way to like disseminate it. I don't know. Like, so it wasn't until I was 35 and it was like a kid's birthday party and someone was throwing, and now in LA, everybody's like on TV or has a commercial. So it was like some guy was pitching and wanted me to do the Red Sox. And so I imitate the Red Sox, and he's like, hey, can I video you? And then, can I send it back to my buddies in Boston? And then he put it on a thing called YouTube, which I didn't know what that was. This is like probably 2008. And then Bill Simmons ran it on his page the next day, and then it went on the front page of YouTube, and then like people started commenting like, hey, do the Yankees, do the Red Sox, do the Marlins. And I was like, wait, what? And so we just started like producing, I guess, content at the time, not knowing it. But then it gets to the audience, which was like, wow, that does look like Wally Pack because none of my friends.
So let me ask you. So now in this space we're in today, with all the, this is what we do. We're content creators. We're doing this right
Yeah.
now on Sales House, right? Like, but a lot of you see. I mean, I got a crawler right now. It's a Sports City Pizza Pub. Did you make money doing this? Was there a way to make money? Did you think about
No,
making
there
money?
was no, not absolutely not. I didn't. Plus, it wasn't like there wasn't a thing. So, like, I have a
Right.
brother that was on Broadway for years, a sister that storyboards for films. All my, not all my friends, but just in L, just a bunch of people are all doing like show business. So, I was already married with 2 kids. I was working at a nonprofit, so I was like so out of it that when people started commenting on YouTube, like, "Hey, do the Cubs," it was like, I don't know, you announcing little league games in Florida. I don't know. It was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, what else am I gonna like, that sounds great.
Sure.
So then
I love
I would start to like, again, YouTube, like baseball had some rule on YouTube where you couldn't find old games in 2008. It was like more recent that now everything's on. So I started like buying up VHS tapes because they were like $2, whereas like DVDs were 20. So it would be like the story of the first 10 years of the Blue Jays, like Mission Possible, and these like god awful VHS tapes, which were like my life. I loved them so much, And so I would watch and be like, all right, well, Willie Upshaw should probably be on the Blue Jay. Like I started putting together like, well, who should be on the list of 15 if we do it? And then we started doing it. And then no kidding, Sal, I get an email through, I guess, YouTube, because at that point nobody knew my name.
Right.
And I hadn't talked in any video yet. So then the Twins, like Fox Sports North, reached out and were like, "Hey, can you come in and do the pregame show tomorrow?" And then I would email back like, "Oh, I don't live in Minnesota." And they're like, "Wait, how do you know Tim Laud?" Because the videos all seemed, because we would do like a
Right.
15-player team video, and people were like, "Well, these guys are definitely from whatever, And even like if it was the Braves, I would get my buddy from Georgia that has a Southern accent to call out the name. So most people were like, "Oh, these guys are definitely like from Marietta or whatever."
Right.
So then teams started wanting me to come out to do the pregame show. And that, that's like no pay, it's like you're not paying people that are on pregame show. So then the Dodgers reached out and said, "Can we fly you out to LA?" And then I replied, "Well, what if I just rode my bike?" Because it's like
I live near Chavez Ravine. I'll just be right there.
Yeah, I wouldn't even get on the freeway. It's right there. So and then when the hosts were asking me questions and I was talking, they were miffed because they're like, "Wait, I was pretty sure you had like a high functioning disease, or like there was no like you can talk to girls." Like they just figured because of the skill set, because I hadn't said anything, it was like, this guy's gonna be a real hand. Like he may not be able to form sentences or interact with women or
Or us.
so then it went from there, and then it was like commercials and late night talk show, and then it started getting paid, like Simon Schuster, I remember a book, and then like appearances, and like if you're hosting some event, like every once in a while, it's like, we want you to host the event, and here's whatever, money. So so I kept it still like hobby level. There's like, if I was coaching my like 10U daughters softball tournament, like I can't leave town and miss that just because like, hey, a bunch of Cubs fans are going to be there. So then what happened is somebody would be like, "And we'll pay you this." And then my wife would be like, "Go, have your backup.
Yes.
Have your backup coach. You go to that."
I love it. I love it.
It's fun.
Gar Ryness, by the way, and I'm going to put on his, here you go. Take a look at him. You can check him out on social media. On Instagram, it's at Batting Stance Guy. If you go to Twitter, it's at Batting Stance G. And obviously Instagram is more where you can do some of the pictures and videos and things like that. But check him out. There's his Instagram. And of course, joining us on Sal's House, brought to you by Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. All right, Gar. So, like, what's been the coolest? And you don't want to offend anybody else, but you've been on Letterman. I know that. Like, what's the coolest kind of show or event that you've been able to do, or a couple of them?
Yeah. So, so they're kind of cool for different reasons. So for sure, obviously, like to be a guest on David Letterman was bananas, and it went like 9.5 minutes, and it was totally surreal. I mean, it was I figured I would be like a stupid human trick or somebody in the audience that would come out. And so the producer even told me it was a Friday. It was right before All-Star break in 2009. And so it's a Friday, and they're saying like, all right, you can't tell anyone that you're going to be on the show. Because I didn't know. I was figuring like I'm going to be on there for like 2 seconds or get bumped. So I was like, okay, no problem. And then this story is not wild to me. So then my brother-in-law who lives in Arizona sends me a screenshot and is like, why is your name on my TV? And sure enough, it was like, early DVR or whatever, TiVo. It's, it was Monday, and it said, Late Show with David Letterman, Jonah Hill, Gar Ryness, and Kelly Clarkson. And so then he's like, what is this? So then I called back the producer, and I was like, wait, why is my name? First of all, they should have said batting stance guy. It's like, what, four people from my high school are gonna be like, oh, cool, Gar's on. Like, why in the world? So then I call, and I'm like, wait, my name is on the screen. He's like, oh, okay, I guess that means it's official. So now you can tell people. I was like, wait, am I on the show? They're like, wow. Yeah, you're one of the guests. I was like, really? I thought for sure like you were just having me on like a juggling clown. And then my brother called and said, hey, do you want to hang out on Monday? Remember, my brother's on Broadway. So I was like, yeah, wait, what? I guess he sees this is awesome. People know. So I was like, yeah, what time you want to hang out? He's like, well, I get into LA at like really late Sunday night. I'm like, wait, what? And so I say, wait, I'm going to be in and so no kidding, Sal, same time, same night that I was on the Late Show, my brother was on the Tonight Show. So
come on.
He was in a musical called Hair, and it just won a Tony. And so he's one of the main guys. And so Conan for 9 months hosted the Carson, Leno, the Tonight Show. And so he flies out. So both of us cross paths in the air. And then at the same time, like my parents don't have DVR. So they're like old school VHS in different rooms. And so
parents got to wear the half jersey thing like a mom and dad.
Yeah, 100%.
A kid and brothers playing in football.
They were Kelsey in the Super Bowl last year. And what's crazy is my parents have already taped over the VHS on like a Phillies Giants NLCS game a couple games later. I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? All right. So yeah, it was literally the same night, same time. We were both on. And the San Francisco Chronicle ran an article like, this is why God invented TiVo. This young family and the equivalent of Inglewood, Florida, has two sons. And of course, my sisters both were like watching, being like, we suck.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's a great story. And yeah, obviously your family's so proud of you, and it's cool. And you kind of put it out there like the least marketable skill in America, but it's been very marketable for you. It's worked. Now, like I can think back, like we're all sports fans here, and I could say, okay, I can tell you, 80, all the Heisman Trophy winners of the 80s and all the NCAA champions. What I can't do though is think of all of these baseball players from the 70s and 80s and what their batting stances look like. How do you do that? Like, do you know it? Do you research it? Like, how did this come about to know all of these names people shout at you?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So let's just start off with my high school grades would tell you that I'm not special or unique, or maybe special, but not in the same direction. So, so first of all, like you, I just love it. So to start off with, like, if you love ice cream and someone brings in Rocky Road and vanilla, and they're like, how can you tell the difference? You're like, trust me, I'm Mensa level when it comes to figuring out what ice cream is. So for whatever reason, because I wasn't watching a lot of TV and I was like looking at baseball cards a lot of times, a lot of the imitations are like, I remember meeting Harold Reynolds and then doing an imitation of him. And then he was like, wait, how do you know about that I have a crooked elbow? And I was like, how would I know you have a crooked elbow? It was just in every card, like Mark Grace. It was like the elbow was never like straight, like a Juan Gonzalez follow through. It was always like something was bent weird. You know what I mean? And so I guess just loving it and then being around it a bunch, watching it. And then I guess it just, I don't know. I like with Heisman trophies, I don't know. Did you like pour over it and study lab, or did you just?
No, it's just it comes to you, right? It's through. The way I like to describe it for me would be like, and I'd say like 84 Doug Flutie, 85 Bo Jackson, 86 Vinny Testaverde, 87 Tim Brown, 88 Barry Sanders. I can do that once you kind of formulate a baseline, and then you also through your just normal reading stuff. Oh, okay, that guy, and you retain it, and it kind of fits into a spot for you. But I always say this, Gar, true. Do you know what I know about a car? Where to stick a key. I can't change oil.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we all got our thing, right?
Yeah, and that's what's when you go to new towns now and you rent a car, it's rough because there's not even a place to put the key. You just set it down.
That's
Now
right.
we're like, I'm
That's
out.
exactly right.
Like
That's
last night, I
exactly
was just like, "Hey, do you want me to like roll down the window?" And my daughters were like, roll that. What are you doing?" In fact, the joke they said was like, "Oh wait, that's rolling down a window. How about that?" And he's
oh my
like,
god.
they're like, "Dad, how do you take a picture? How do you fake take a picture? Is it like this, or is it like this, or is it like this?"
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, and
Oh, wait.
like
So
you're saying,
let me
yeah,
answer
yeah,
your
go ahead.
question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm definitely like in love with all the like World Series I've watched. So I know if you're
Yes.
a random pinch hitter, I know that. So then what happens is when I'm doing an event, so like no kidding. So I turning 50, let's just pretend you and I are the same age. So my bucket list was to see every single team in person last year, not at their stadium. That'd be ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean, just every time a team came to California or every time I went somewhere else, I literally saw all 30 teams live. Just never even been close to doing that, in a season. So as I was going down to see the last game, it was in San Diego, the Cardinals. It was like one of the last weekends. So on the way down, the manager texts and is like, will you do a show for us in the clubhouse? Okay. So that happens where if I'm going to a game sometimes, the manager, who, by the way, kind of came up through the ranks maybe originally, in 08, 09, 10, 10, and knew of me then, and now they're in charge of the team. So like, I know it would be fun. Do what you
Sure.
did with us when we were. So then what'll happen is I'll have to study literally like the Cardinals at the end of last year. It was like
Right.
a bunch of minor league, a bunch of people. So I have to like pour over. I got to go like film room. I can't just say Mike Rozier. I got to like really go like film room. And then
That's
same
right.
with like player like Ryan Zimmerman's mom and my mom both have advanced MS in wheelchair.
Okay.
So then Ryan Zimmerman would throw this huge like MS fundraiser. All the nationals would be there, all that. And then he would have me be the entertainment at the event. And so I would look at the list and there may be a bunch of guys that are like been up in the major leagues for 20 days. And so I've got to like research them because I want to give a hat tip to the last guy on the bench, not just the star.
Yeah.
And so like the Yankees would have me do the entertainment at their team dinner before opening day. So it's just like in a random hotel, but it's the Yankees. And so
Yeah.
then I have to like make sure I research the last guy on the bench to know like what Francisco Cervelli does as opposed to like A-Rod. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Gar Ryness, batting stance guy. Have you ever had a player get upset at you because he thought you were either did it wrong or why are you making fun of me? Anything like that?
So from the locker room, if you just like broke down and started sobbing, you'd get made fun of forever. So I
Sure.
think there's people that I can tell are like, I don't do that. But then the laughter of 20 other people kind of like ends the debate.
Yes.
So
Yes.
like when I was literally one-on-one where he works out in Tampa for like about 20 minutes with Derek Jeter years ago.
Okay.
And I was doing something there. It was like where a bunch of CAA athletes trained. And so Ryan Howard, a bunch of the guys like had me do kind of a show for them. And then his Jeter's like trainer was like, hey, bring him in or whatever. And so then it's just one-on-one with Jeter. And then basically had me do the imitation. It's like he calls for time with his wrist, like not his hand, so I kind of draw it up a little more probably effeminate than he is in real life. And so then just the way that he is, one by one, he's like, I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. Like, that's terrible. I don't like
Wow.
he was, yeah, but it was only like trainers, it was no players. So then cut to like 5 years later, the Yankees have me do their like team dinner. It's his last season. And so then I was like, hey, Derek said I don't do any of this right. So you guys can tell me. And it was like Blues Brothers church scene. People were like doing flips in the aisle and they were like Beltran's punching him. CC's like jumping around. And like the whole place is going nuts. Because then when the other people around it do the exact same thing. And they're like, that's exactly Jeter.
No
That's
doubt.
exactly Jeter. And then finally he shakes my hand. He's like, all right, man, maybe.
And he got yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I'll give it up. He said you do it right. Okay, before we get to some, I threw it out on Twitter and people responded with some names. I want to get to them. Have you ever thought of or done quarterbacks, pitchers? Like what other, have you ever expanded out or thought of it?
Well, so you're going to be around him more than I am in the next 10 years, but sometime ask Tony Romo, because he has a reputation of being able to do quarterbacks great.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Barely. He's like, I've heard from people that know him. I just don't know. Like, I'm not close enough to him to know, but apparently he's good.
He did like 4 of the Bills games. I wish I would have known that, but next year when I see him, I'll ask.
See if and it's not truly from me, but it's like, I don't know if it was like Bill Simmons or Cousin Sal, or there's that whole group that really like Romo, and they're like, dude, he's unbelievable at doing imitation. And I know like Djokovic is like the best at imitating tennis players, and Prince Fielder told me that he would do imitation of a player, but then as he started making like $200 million, he was like, he kind of had to stop, because you can't have the guy making 200 million making fun of the guy that's about to get cut. Whereas I'm like the Sparklets water guy. I'm walking in with nothing. Like, what if Derek Jeter says like, dude, you're a nerd? Like, yeah. If we're getting into, so like Josh Beckett was the only guy who was like kind of weird, like in the like you're lame, you suck. It's like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm holding a wiffle bat. You're like pitching for the Red Sox.
All right.
Yeah, so I want someone else's dream to come true. So
I love
it. The guy in Amarillo, Texas, who actually is great at quarterback, I want his or her dreams to come true. Mine have already come true. They've all come true.
Well, there you go. If you need a consultant on it, you have a book, you said? You have a book? You can promote it right here, man.
Yeah,
what's the
book? It's called Batting Stance Guy, a love letter to baseball. It's framed around the greatest 50 stances of my lifetime. So literally, most all of the names that were called out on your Twitter feed all have a chapter in the book. And it's been so fun. It's on Amazon. Yeah, Batting Stance Guy, a love letter to baseball.
All right, let's do that. Let me start. You brought up Jeter. Why don't you do it then? Let me see what Derek Jeter said he did not do of. Here we go. Right, Gar Ryness, by the way, batting stance guy. Let's check this out.
So Jeter's like, call for time with your wrist, and then he'll do this little nod where he'll basically go like, okay, we are ready to fight. So he's like, yep. So it's like this, and then eyes are like right about here. So they're like half open. And then he'll kind of lean back and do this. Let's see, let me get in frame. And then he'll do a toe tap, toe tap, toe tap, and then he'll swing and then throw the bat down as hard as he can and then kind of run like that. That's Jeter. Like, all right, his jump man should be this.
That's right. Now I'm looking at that and I'm thinking of another shortstop, Nomar Garciaparra.
All right, so Nomar gets in and he works out his OCD in front of everybody. So he'll do this. And then he'll tap, and then he'll tap his toes. And it's like he has an open stance, but you can see the 5 on his back. So it's like he's coiled like an old Star Wars figure. And then he'll finish and then launch the bat that way.
What about with Nomar? What about the batting glove thing he does? You ever do that? That whole
thing so Nomar, he'll get up like this and then he'll just go back and forth. And then he'll also do a little bit elbow. And then he'll tap the umpire's leg. Back. Yeah, it's a lot of this. A lot of working out the OCD in front of you, everybody.
All right, so we got Maniac, who actually doesn't live far from me. He's part of Trainwreck Sports here, content creators in Buffalo. He wants you to do Chuck Knobloch.
Oh, yeah. So Chuck Knobloch is, first of all, it's like this. And then it's backwards. And then you got to lay the bat down flat. So from the side, it would be like his knees are way down. That's Chuck Knobloch.
The facial expressions are the best. I love it. All right. Kevin Youkilis. I know one you've done many times.
All right. So he's the #1 chapter in the book. In the New York Times, he said that I owe him royalties for the whole thing. Like if it wasn't for him, no one know I owe. And he's right. All right. So Youkilis, and that was one of the players that was called out on Letterman. So he does this practice swing down, and then he does the thing that like everyone that's like 25 pounds overweight knows, to like, you always have to like tug your Sal, you don't know this, but some of us that have like gained weight since college, you have to tug on the back, and so you'll notice that when a guy gets into the box who's kind of big, he'll have to like tug his shirt down to just make sure. Like Pujols, when he would get up to the plate, he would always be like, "Let me make sure I'm." Yeah, everyone's got the freshman '94. They know what I'm doing. So Euclid, to be such a good pro athlete, did a lot of this. And then what happened is he would go straight on. And then, so for the people that know Julio Franco, it's like he kind of does Julio Franco, but like a waiter that's holding like a table full of like 6. So he's like, and his knees are together and he's kind of bouncing around. And people think I'm kidding, but if you're a Red Sox fan 20 years ago, you know what I'm talking about. And by the way, I just saw him recently.
You did.
So speaking of Fred Smirlis,
yeah,
Kevin Euclid.
We were talking about Fred Smirlis before the show, so everybody knows.
Nice. Kevin Euclid married Tom Brady's sister, and then he opened with his best friend from Cincinnati, like the college team he played on. He opened up a brew pub in Los Gatos. So if you're literally like visiting Northern California, let's say you're a Red Sox fan, you're visiting Northern California, look up Loma Brew, and then he's literally like working there. But again, California, they're not into sports the same way. So this like all-star on the Red Sox, you just think he's like a little league dad who owns a brew pub. It's like if he was in Boston, people would be like, take a picture, Euclid. But he's just like a dude living there. It's pretty wild.
Just a normal dude. Shout out to the people. We actually had Julio Franco from Crappy Uncle. He didn't use Crappy, but that's his name on Twitter right there. So shout out to him. And then we had Thomas was the one that said Kevin Euclid. Here's a few. Magic Eyes Only said Nomar. So thank you. All right. Here's a few going back. You can take these whichever 3 way you want. We got RJ Patrick, Willie Stargell. Lisa wants George Brett, and Mike wants Don Baylor. So go ahead. Perfect. Stargell, Brett, and Baylor.
All right. So Willie Stargell would do the loop around, and then he would go 2 spins, then he would go crang, and then George Brett.
Wait, was it always 2 spins?
At the very end. No, like he would do this, and just as long as the pitcher was like waiting to throw.
Okay. And then I didn't know if it was like some guys bounce the basketball for free throws like 5 times all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he seemed to be like he wouldn't stop until the pitcher was like ready to throw it, but then he would seem to do like 2 spins.
Okay. Brett and Baylor.
Brett. Oh, so Sal, one of the things I'll do now is like George Brett is one of the main guys for the Royals fantasy camp. And so the Royals just had me come out and then be the entertainment at their fantasy camp. So it was literally like George Brett calling out names for like an hour and a half. It's supposed to be 15 minutes. It ended up being an hour and a half. And he was great. So yeah, that's
awesome. I'm glad when I hear stories about these guys embracing this like this with you.
Yeah, no, it's because it's a level of contextualized comedy where like Chris Rock is definitely funnier than me. But if I'm in a room, in essence, doing jokes about that, like Chris Rock's not doing that. He's doing like bigger, broader comedy. And so I'm literally making fun of like John Wathan's mouth. And so everyone in there's done in a way that like, I don't have 3 friends that would laugh at a John Wathan's mouth joke, but at a fantasy camp for the Royals with all his teammates, his daughter runs it. Like the crowd is like, he like runs out of the building. Everyone's laughing so much. All right. Don Baylor. R.I.P. So Don Baylor was very, I don't know what other word to use than erect. He was just like completely like that. And then, but yeah, he just kind of stood and then he usually, honestly, so who is it? Gnarlyteeth.com or who said Baylor?
Baylor. No, this was Mike, which is Frogman 4.
Okay, hey, Frogman 4, you want a Don Baylor imitation? Here you go, Frogman 4. He just got plucked. He Don
did,
Baylor.
Yes. I don't know. Does he still hold the record for most times being?
No, Craig Biggio. Craig Biggio.
Yeah. Give me Biggio. Oh, there you go. Why did I get like 5 people asking for Craig Counsell? Does Craig Counsell have some unique stance?
Yeah. So yeah. So Craig Counsell's he's number 2 all time. Euclid is 1. So yeah. So Counsell is now the coach of the Cubs. On the Marlins, he won a World Series like this, and then he went to the Diamondbacks where he would go like real low. He would basically like squat like Bagwell, but then he would like try to manually unscrew a light bulb, so he would be like low, but then twirling the bat. And then on the Brewers, it's impossible to do in a place with a ceiling. Right. He just went as absolutely high as you can possibly go. So like the bat goes straight up. It looks pretend. If you Google Craig Counsell Brewers batting stance, it looks like you're trying to make your kid laugh at like a company softball game.
All right. So do guys change their stance a lot? Are there tweaks? Yeah. Like, are there a few guys you're like, dude, if I did him from like 1985 versus 1993, it's wildly different.
Wildly different. And that's why, like, Carl Yastrzemski is a good example, is that like in 67, his hands are way over his head. In 75, his hands are about head level. In like 83, he's like tired and bent over. And so what'll happen is there'll be some like, all right, yes. And then somebody on Twitter will be like, look at his 1967 Bowman rookie. It's like his hands were. So yeah, like there's a lot of guys that'll switch. I mean, Cal Ripken Jr., like he won an MVP like this. He won an MVP like this. He did the violin. He did the the Wookin' Fuss. He did the Tettleton. He did the Brad Cummins home run. Rob, he did the Chan-Ho Park and it was always crazily different, but his swing was always the exact same.
And then
and then Carew. Yeah. Carew was like super low. And then he did a bunch of different things based on kind of like how he felt. But Carew for our brain, when he was on the Angels, he was just like, and then he would like fall asleep between the first and second pitch, like in the box. He was so loose.
What about, okay, we got a couple more minutes here. There was something I could ask you. I'll remember that, but let's do a few more here that came in. Mattingly and Gary Sheffield, a couple former Yankees as well.
Okay. So Mattingly's like, you got to get the like mullet flowing. And then he was like neck and then nose. And then it's almost like he's like a bird. And then his run is like a velociraptor. So it's like, and when I met him, he was like, I don't know why I do that. I don't know why I run like that. He's awesome. Mattingly's awesome. He's such a cool, like down to earth dude. And then
you've gotten to know him a little bit. You've gotten to know him a little bit.
Yeah. So luckily, I had dinner. Went to this dinner party where, I just sat next to him, and like his good friend was the Bat Boy from back then, and then we're all friends now. And no, he's just like super cool and relaxed, and like kind of what you want in a famous athlete. But I just figure they're either full of themselves or like not cool with the little person. But he's like not impressed with himself in a way, like where he's just like asking questions. Still literally hangs out with like the Bat Boy from the 90s because he's like a good dude,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, now he's our age, so it's not like he was a
Sheffield? Yeah, Sheffield, yeah.
Don't blink. Look like you don't get the joke. Fiddle with like chaw that used to be in there. That's Chef.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. No blink. Like, don't get the joke. I love it. You were talking about the relationship there. So Diamondbacks manager Torey Lovullo actually managed here in Buffalo, married a Buffalo girl. He's now a kind of a member of Bills Mafia now. He comes to Bills games. His wife, he comes here. So yeah, you're right. And I got to know him a little bit last year when he came. He's on the sidelines. You get to know some of these people, right? It's what you do for a living. It's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
A lot of them are like that. You talk about Mattingly, just kind of Euclid, right? Just regular people
Yeah.
who have a very, very high profile job, of course, right?
Yeah. Well, and the focus that got them to that thing
Yeah.
even doesn't mean
Yeah.
like that's what they do in everything. Like they may have, it's like the whole like prom queen that never got asked to the prom. Like they're so focused in a certain area, they may be a disaster everywhere else. So like as a friend, you may actually like help them out, but they're
Yes.
like really good at free throws, or they're really good at
Yes.
blocking and tackling, but they may be like a knucklehead when it comes to like where to put the key in their car.
All right, so I got one more for you before we leave. We're
Yeah.
gonna wrap it up here with batting stance guy, Gar Ryness, excuse me. All right. How is Gar Ryness's batting stance when he
Okay.
plays softball? You have a stance, or do you just mimic everybody else's when you play?
So this is too obscure, but righty to generate power on coin field or whatever it was. For some reason, I did the Greg Gagne from the Twins, where you kind of like supply your own power, and then lefty. Hey, I'm letting you in a little secret, Sal. So lefty, when you guys would pitch, if I wanted to hit a home run, I would go David Justice, and then just try to like crank it. And then if I was trying to go opposite field because of the radical shift that everyone does for lefties, I would go Will Clark, because I could contort my body in such a way where you kind of couldn't tell the last second that I was trying to hit it that way. Whereas if I did it with Justice, I would have been like, ugh. But with Will Clark, and luckily I had the face and the scowl and could go, ah! And then Will Clark would be the
Love it.
double down the line.
You can follow him on Instagram at Batting Stance Guy. You can do the same thing without the guy, just Batting Stance G on Twitter. Friend from Syracuse from many years ago, 30 years ago now. We're going to say we are old, but
We're
also,
old.
I know we are old. So here's the deal, dude, before you go. Next year, the Niners are coming to Buffalo. You need to get up here. We need to hang out, get some wings. We need to do a show somewhere.
Done.
Yes.
Niners are in Buffalo. I went to the Minnesota game this year.
Yeah.
Literally the worst game of the year for the Niners until yesterday. But
Niners are in Buffalo next year. We'll find out in May when they come up here. Let's do something. We'll invite some people out. We'll promote it. People can come out. They can have a good time doing some batting with Batting Stance Guy.
Done.
I love it.
I love it.
I love you. Hey, promote the book. Promote the book.
Batting Stance Guy, a love letter of baseball. Look, it's somewhere. It's in the building. Hold on.
There you go. Let me see.
Never seen. It's like if Jon Stewart would have been a baseball fan. Look, oh my gosh, we've got tutorials. What in the world? We've got Mickey Tettleton. Bill, are you crazy? Ichiro.
All right, you got to send me that book. We're gonna work on it. You send me that book. Yep. I want to take a look at that.
Jim Tomek, Carl Everett, Jason Kendall. Oh my goodness, Brian Downing. Whoa, we are old.
We're going to do something at Sports City Pizza Pub. We thank them as always today. 1407 Niagara Street in Buffalo. Come on out. We'll get some great wings. We'll have a couple beers. We'll get some pizza. Batting Stance Guy. Gar, I love you, buddy. Thank you. Congratulations on all your success. I'm so proud to say that I know you, man. It's just super cool.
Hey, you launched real far. When you were a school teacher in rural Florida, none of us knew if you were going to make it.
I'm making something, that's for sure. Gar Ryness, everybody. Thank you for coming on to Sal's house today.